Mr. Wyszynski, the United Nations Assembly gave a warm welcome on his first appearance at the Central Hall. The arrival of the principal Russian delegate enabled UNO to debate the all-important question of the control of atomic power, the issue before which all others are of comparatively minor urgency. When Wyszynski addressed the Assembly, it was to support the proposal to set up a commission to hammer out ways and means of world control. In his final sentences, Wyszynski spoke in English.
Let this noble move achieve a true and complete success.
Mr. Pedro Lopez of the Philippine Commonwealth thought the proposed Atom Commission would not be strong enough to accomplish its purpose.
Of conserving to this Assembly the power to alter, modify, control, or abolish altogether that which it created.
The veteran French statesman, Monsieur Paul Boncourt, pledged 100% support by his country.
De cette découverte dont les résultats et les conséquences sont immesurables à l'esprit humain.
Mr. Burns also favored the proposal to appoint an atom commission.
In meeting the problems, we must realize that in this atomic age and in this interdependent world, our common interest in preserving the peace far outweighs any possible conflict in interest that might divide us. We who fought together for freedom must now show that we are worthy of the freedom that we won.
For the launch of Britain's later submarine at Barrow, 3 of the Navy's Midget submarine VCs were present on the platform: Lieutenants Place and Fraser and leading seaman McGuinness. Mrs. Creasy, wife of Rear Admiral Creasy, Chief of the Submarine Service, performed the ceremony.
I name this ship Anchorite. May God bless her and all who serve in her.
The Anchorite is a 1,200-ton ship, but as I said, it was in midget subs that the VCs were won. Lieutenant Fraser and leading seaman McGuinness won theirs by sinking a Jap cruiser near Singapore. McGuinness had something to say about midget submarines.
When we eventually got them in the water, we found out they were perfect, and in perfect working order. Of course, with a good crew as well, like.
Indeed, a lot of compliments were exchanged on this happy occasion. The 3 VCs thanking the shipyard workers for the reliability of the craft they built, and the workers saying what they and all of us think of the VC's gallantry and skill.
Immense water power, harnessed in the north of Quebec province during the war to drive the largest aluminium plant in the world, is now giving its unlimited store of natural energy to the requirements of peace. At Shipshore, 2 enormous dams are the source of 1.5 million horsepower. Regulated in the intricate control room by a single engineer, the big generators turn the water power into electric current for the huge plant at nearby Arvida. Here was produced most of the Allies' aluminium in wartime. Today the plant maintains its output undiminished. Melted bauxite yields the molten aluminium. For convenience, they cast it into 50-pound ingots. Shipped in thousands of tons to Kingston, Ontario, the destination of the metal is a large factory manufacturing prefabricated houses. When the ingots have been melted down and alloyed with copper, nickel, and other metals to make them rust-proof, the aluminium is rolled and molded into the many units called for in house building. The manufacturers claim that the material will withstand the worst weather conditions in any part of the world. Concentration at the moment is on a small one-story house, but the equipment is first-rate, and those much abused words, all modern conveniences, can be safely applied. 30 feet by 24, the house has 2 bedrooms, bath, kitchen, and living room. When completed, it folds up for easier transportation by rail or road. As well as satisfying her own needs, Canada will export thousands of these houses to Britain. Their transportability is something quite unusual. Apparently, if you don't like the neighborhood, you just push along elsewhere. From the Burma jungle, battlefield of yesterday, the pilot of a wrecked plane was brought to hospital in one of the most dramatic air rescues of all time. He was as badly injured as a man can be, with broken back and pelvis and severe concussion. Smoke flares guided the plane summoned by radio to bring penicillin and other medical supplies. Instructions how to treat the pilot had been received by wireless. The penicillin was given first. But for that wonder drug, the pilot could not have lived. To enable an ambulance helicopter to land, a small space had to be blasted. Then they leveled the surface in the hope that there'd be enough room for the machine to take off again. Only this type of aircraft could possibly have touched down on this backyard landing place. Next, they very carefully carried the injured man out to the machine. He now had a good chance of recovery if the helicopter could take off. To give the engine maximum lift at the crucial moment, they held on while it revved up. It was away, successfully airborne. From the jungle death trap, the pilot was being flown to hospital.
The attention recently paid to Nelson's statue appears to have caused some inconvenience to a number of Trafalgar Square residents. For the time being, they regarded themselves as displaced pigeons. All the same, Mr. Larkin was doing a job that badly needed doing, he and his fellow steeplejacks. Nelson hadn't been inspected since just after World War I, when Mr. Larkin's father climbed up. In addition, it was thought that blasts from bombs that fell nearby in World War II might have done some damage. The method of inspection, as you see, is to fix ladders on both sides of the column, and making fast with rope, the steeplejacks go up to the top, nearly 200 feet above ground. It's a dizzy thought for ordinary mortals, but apparently Sid and his mates think nothing of it. The statue itself is almost 17.5 feet high. One of the most famous in the world, it must be kept safe for posterity. A German factory is taken over for British military production. This was a huge plant erected at Hitler's order for the construction of the German People's Car. Only, of course, the vehicles never came off the assembly lines as cars until now. Now they're being turned out by the factory at the rate of 600 a month and turned over to the British military government. It's a handy little job, that Volkswagen. Good springing, takes a gradient nicely, carries its engine at the back. German prisoners of war drive these cars for officers of the British military government and the Allied Control Commission. At HQ British military government in Germany, there are large numbers of the People's Car in service with the master race as taxi drivers. Why do we show you a picture of German cars? Because it connects up with our own motor policy. In Britain, we're building cars for our own market, and we don't want to have to divert any of our motor car production to making good the wear and tear on our military vehicles in Germany. Therefore, it makes sense to use German sources of production for the military needs of our occupying forces, while British cars, as here, are built for trade. Though we may not be seeing much of them as yet on the streets of our cities and on our country roads, new British cars are being built, and those that go for export are earning us valuable credit in the struggle to pay our way in the world.